Boker Tov, good morning. Today is Friday, the 13th of January, Erev Shabbat, Parshat Shmot. God lays it all out for Moshe. He tells him exactly how it's going to play out, that you're going to go, you're going to speak to the elders of Israel, you'll tell them that God said that he remembered that he's remembered his people, and he's going to redeem them and bring them to the land of Canaan. Vishamula kolecha, God says, and they will hearken to your voice, you will go. You and the elders of Israel will come to the king of Egypt, and you'll tell him, the God of the Hebrews happened upon us, and now let us go for 3 days into the wilderness and offer sacrifices to our God. And God says then, I know that Pharaoh is not going to listen to you, and it's going to require makot, it's going to require the plagues that he brings. So you will go to them, you will say this phrase, and they will hearken to your voice. Rashi quotes a version of the Midrash. Rashi, look at the Midrash as the Ramban quotes the Midrash. God says they will listen to you right away. Lama shemesoret geula hi bi'adam. They have a tradition of redemption over these hundreds of years. Shekol goel shiavo v'yomar lahem pkida kfula. Any redeemer who comes and uses the phrase pakod pakaditi, doubling of that word, when God says I've remembered. Hu goel shalamed. He is the truthful redeemer. These words are by tradition to them. How do we know? Last week's parsha, on Yosef's final words in the parsha, or that God will remember you, pakod yifkod elokim etchem. And so, and passes that along in this way of thinking about it. You will know that God is ready to do this when a redeemer from outside the circle comes and uses this phrase. That's how it's understood. Moshe has been outside the circle. He did have a period of time as a very, very young child in the house of Levi, but he's been gone all this time. He would not know it from the Masorah, from the tradition side of it. He can only know it because he's heard it from God. And he uses the code word. God says, and they will hearken to your voice. Skipping forward, later into Perek Daled, Vayelech Moshe v'Aaron, and Moshe and Aaron went. Vayesvu et kol ziknei bnei Yisrael, and they gather all the elders of the children of Israel. Vayidaber Aaron et kol dvarim ha'ela shediber Adonai Moshe. Vayasod l'nei ha'am, and Aaron does the speaking, and that God had said to Moshe, says those words, and he does the signs. Vayeamein ha'am, and the people believe, just like God said. Vayishmu ki fakad Adonai bnei Yisrael v'chi ra'at anyam vayiktu v'yishtachavu. And they hear that God had remembered them, and maybe because God had pakad, right, that phrase, and he's seen what they've they're suffering, and they all bow down. So just as God said to Moshe, so it was, except next pasuk. Ve'achar ba'u Moshe v'Aaron v'yimul Paro k'omar Hashem, etc., etc. And afterwards, Moshe and Aaron came and they spoke to Paro and they said, let us go and worship our God in the wilderness. So that's not exactly as God had said it was going to happen. In the text back at the burning bush, Uvata ata v'ziknei Yisrael el melech Mitzrayim. You and the elders of Israel will go. And yet, as events happen, it doesn't say that. It says v'achar ba'u Moshe v'Aharon, just Moshe and Aharon. Asks Rashi, quoting the Midrash, Aval Hazakenim, or he comments, what about the elders who just bowed and believed and were so excited, and God said they were going to go? It didn't work that way. Nishmatu echad echad me'acharei Moshe v'Aaron. They peeled off one at a time behind it. So they start marching to the palace. All of them. All the Zignei Yisrael, yes, we're going. We're going to make our case, Hashem's case, to let us go to the wilderness. And one at a time they peel off. Ad nishmatu kulam kodem shigiu laplatin lefi sheru lechet. Until by the time they get to the palace, there's nobody else there but Moshe and Aaron, because they're simply afraid. You can believe and know that God is going to save you. But it's another thing to have the courage to stand up and make the case or to challenge. That's a harder place to be. Now, according to Rashi, they are punished for that. There's a Canaan, but punished for that later on in the wilderness, and that might be the case. But we kind of understand this is a human nature. That especially again the broken people, the downtrodden people, even with God's promise fresh in their freshly received, it's just really hard. It's just really hard to hold it and be brave and to be brave. Moshe and Aaron are the brave ones, as the Canaan aren't, and it's a reminder to us that yeah, it's human nature. But the expectation is that we rise to a higher capacity when the moment calls for it, and to be ready to be brave when bravery is needed. Certainly, with God on your side, overtly and clearly, you don't really have to be brave. But somehow, when you're questioning that, and you simply know that this is a frightening moment I'm going to have to go through. You need the extra bravery and faith to take you through. That's the call, folks. That's a call for all of us to find that voice when the moment calls, whatever the context will be. And we'll have those moments when they arise. Not to peel away, but to stand up and march forward and speak up for what has to be spoken. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom.